your hair cut way up high. Get yourself a lawyer, son. You're gonna need a real good one.
You'll need one of the best. David Whiting is him, Melbourne solicitor who advises you every week with your legal challenges and troubles. David Whiting, good morning.
Good morning.
Nice to see you. We had one fascinating bit of homework last night. Are you obliged as an owner, a landlord, to provide a water tap in the backyard?
The short answer is no.
Really?
Yes. Because and there are three sets of, you've got to look at the Building Code of Australia, you've got to look at the plumbing regulations and the Plumbing Act.
Please tell me you've read all of those things all last week.
No, I read the bits that I needed to read. And essentially they are concerned with plumbing insofar as it relates to buildings, not adjacent to buildings.
Right.
So there is nothing anywhere that says you need to have a tap in the front yard or the backyard.
Does it depend on the size of the front yard or the backyard?
No,
Just not at all.
It deals with plumbing in buildings, or insofar as it relates to buildings. So it deals with sewer and that kind of stuff, but it doesn't say, and thou shalt have a tap in the backyard.
I think that's wrong, don't you?
I would call it remarkably inconvenient, particularly as one of the requirements in the lease for the gentleman who called last week was that there would be a requirement that he maintain the backyard. Presumably there's some watering required as well as some grass cutting.
Oh, well, come on. Wouldn't you then advise this person to say, OK, mate, landlord, you require me to maintain the backyard, you'd better put in a tap then, huh? Isn't that reasonable?
Again, I'd like to know how big the backyard is and what's there. But I'm surprised there is no tap. And in the course of construction, I wonder what it saved the owner, maybe a couple $100, but not putting in the tap.
It wouldn't cost much to put one in, would it?
Well, it would cost more to put one in now because you'd need to connect it to
That's
the water
right.
supply
Interesting.
Yep.
Any other homework that we have?
No, that was the lot for homework.
Okay.
But there are a couple of news items that caught my eye. The Attorneys General for Australia met last week and they decided that it would not be appropriate to lift the age of criminal responsibility from 10 to 14. Victorian government introduced legislation last week to allow for contingency fees for lawyers in class actions. A contingency fee is where the lawyer gets a fixed proportion of the outcome or a proportion of the outcome. Now, at the moment, that's not allowed in Victoria. So what we've had is litigation funders who effectively lend money to the project. All lawyers did it on a no-win, no-fee basis, and we were very concerned in the last couple of years about the amount of money that was being taken by litigation funders.
Yes.
And at one stage there was even a law firm that created its own litigation funder, and the government said, or the law said no to that. So a proposed change in the law here, and a lovely story that's finally wended its way through the courts in Florida. A gentleman was, or a lawyer, but there's clearly a distinction, was acting for a defendant who was charged with arson. He was making his closing submissions to the jury and his pocket caught fire. And it turned out that he had a e-cigarette that where the battery had failed, and after he had raced or left the courtroom to undertake the necessary remediation works,
Yes.
there was a question of whether he was endeavouring to influence the jury. And there was also an investigation as to whether he could be guilty of arson.
Oh, arson himself. He was the lawyer defending the arsonist.
We're defending the accused arsonist.
Yes, thank you.
Yes.
Defending the accused arsonist.
Yes.
How would that help with the jury deliberations?
Some fires just happen spontaneously, you know. Yep. So that's the only thing I can
You'd
get
have to
out
be a
of it.
total wally to believe that, wouldn't you? How often do e-cigarettes explode, blow up or burn?
Well, probably
Suddenly
less
fail.
often than mobile phones. Who knows?
I've never had that happen to me, have you?
No.
No?
No.
No heat in that man's pocket, but a fine mind to help you with legal problems. 1300 222 774. Eleonora is in Greensborough and you are number one today. G'day, good morning.
Oh, hi, good morning to you all. I just had a question this morning, David, through my home insurance policy. I have unspecified extra cover included. I pay extra premium for that per annum.
Yes.
And my son's bicycle, unfortunately, was stolen from his part-time job, tied up at the front.
Why
on the
was
bike
and your
rack.
claim was rejected, Eleonora? Why?
Because they said that because this bike that he bought, even though it says it's included in bicycles, in the policy, it's in black and white. I've got it in front of me. It says inclusive of bicycles, because his bike has one of those sort of little motors on them that they put petrol in and they can pedal up a hill and it just kicks in.
So
They
it's a
claim that-
motorised vehicle.
Yeah, it's a motorised
So it's
bike.
not. Yeah, I understand. But yes, it may not meet the definition of bicycle in the policy.
It just says in the policy that we cover bicycles whilst they're not being provided for racing or pacemaking. That's all it says, David.
There is
Bicycles.
a insurance ombudsman scheme that you should consider.
Correct. That's what I wanted to know.
And
Thank
that's
you,
where
David.
I would be looking. But I do have a difficulty if there is, and I suppose your argument would be that the little motor is not the primary source of propulsion.
Correct. That's
So-
exactly where I'm thinking.
So that's
It's
your
a bicycle.
your argument has to be it's a bike
Yes.
with an add-on. It's not a small motorbike with pedals.
Correct. That's
Yes.
exactly right.
So
Yes.
that's the argument I would run.
Yes.
Look, I'd need to know a little bit more about the motor and everything else, but I'm not overly optimistic because the fact that it's got the motor might make it more susceptible to theft. I don't know.
So who do I contact, David? I just missed the person that you mentioned.
No, there is an insurance industry ombudsman. Depending on the insurer, some insurers have their own referral service. Others use the industry ombudsman, and you can also go to VCAT. But the ombudsman services are generally free. So start there, and that doesn't prevent you still going to VCAT if you're not happy.
Okay, good luck, Eleonora.
Thank you,
Good luck with
Virginia.
that.
Thank you.
Fred,
Okay, bye-bye.
Fred is in Sunshine. Good morning.
Hello, David and Virginia.
Good morning.
Yeah, good morning. David, I'll pass this through with you in reference to a family dispute and a will, and you recommend to employ a good lawyer. That I thought I did. But my experience with this lawyer wasn't a good one, but what got me most was, David, was that at the end of what I experienced, that because he controlled that the money goes to him and then he'll distribute it. But at the end of the whole saga, I said to this particular lawyer, it'd be nice to have a chat in reference to the bill and then we work it out. Then I'll get his bill and he's already withdrawn the money that I was in dispute with him.
Fred,
Is this
Fred, you can still have the argument.
Yeah, but he doesn't want to have the argument with me.
There is a process for an argument over cost with a lawyer.
Yeah.
The first thing is that you need to look at the costs agreement that you signed.
Yes, I
Right
did.
now, some costs agreements say that I'm able to pay myself as soon as I issue the bill. Now, if it says that, then that's what they're able to do. There's
so
also,
that is common practice if I sign that, which I think
if that's
I
what
did.
the cost agreement says, that's what they're allowed to do. Otherwise, they have to send it to you and either wait or ask permission.
Oh, right.
Now,
because,
but you can still have the dispute. You're able. How much was your overall bill, Fred?
over 5,500.
You can go to the Legal Services Commissioner. You can go to the legal and.
Yeah, it's a bit too late for all that, but I did know...
Sorry, how
Yeah.
old is when was the money
I
taken?
think it must be about 12 months.
Oh, okay. I know the calls are hard to get through, Fred, but this is a long
I've been trying to get
time.
you online for a long time, and I'm so fortunate I got you today. I can't believe I got you, but I did not know that they can do that. But he was a friend of mine, and I
Right.
trusted him with everything. But I had a terrific lawyer prior to him, but I really did a message on
So why did you change, Fred?
because I'm an idiot, really.
Okay.
Oh,
it was
Fred,
that. And
don't
think-
say that.
And because I trusted him, because we came from the same school and we shared the same
We thought you shared the same values and you found out you didn't, Fred.
So what can Fred do now, David?
Well, he could...
Hang on.
It's
Wait,
quite
Fred,
possible that he still has a dispute under... There's a ability to make an application to the Legal Services Board out of time, the Commissioner. So why not start the dispute there? I wasn't satisfied with the process and felt I was overcharged.
Give it a go, Fred, and see how you go.
Thanks very much, David, Virginia.
Wish you luck. Sorry it's turned out that way.
No worries. Thank you.
Bye. John in Fairfield, good morning.
Hi, how you going?
Good, thanks.
Look, just very quickly, I had booked some accommodation through a accommodation reseller back in February for my for a wedding, and arrived. And I got there on the weekend to find out that the reseller had gone bust. The hotel luckily had kept our reservation open, but we had to pay a second time.
John, did you pay by credit card?
I did, yes.
Well, why not talk to the credit card provider and say there was a failure of consideration? What you want is a clawback.
Look, I'm going to do that. It only happened on the weekend. I just thought, because I checked online, and they said basically that because of the reseller was overseas, they weren't sure whether our credit card companies would actually consider refunding.
Oh, I think they still have an obligation to dig into that.
Yeah, they still have an obligation. So have a look at talk to your credit card provider.
Yep.
Tell them what happened. Provide evidence and you're just disputing the transaction.
John, was it your wedding?
No, it was my niece's, but it was a fantastic, absolutely amazing event. But
and was it overseas or was it local?
No, it was in New South Wales.
Okay.
Well, thank goodness they kept the booking, huh?
Beg your pardon?
Thank goodness they kept the booking.
Oh, it was, and they said they had about 10 of the same company last week, so they obviously at the firing line, and they were incredibly lovely about it and gave us a nice discount.
So this was your niece and the brand new spouse turning up on the honeymoon night, was it, for their first night of accommodation?
No, it was actually turning up to the wedding.
Oh, to the wedding.
So John went to the wedding, to New South Wales for the wedding, and needed somewhere to stay.
Before the niece. Yeah. Yes. That's amazing. Well, look, definitely go to the credit card company. I've done that before. I've done that.
I'll give it a go.
With all sorts of disputed transactions, even for transactions where the seller, in one case, where I made the mistake of trusting the online seller, was as dodgy as, and I got a refund.
That's for everybody else. If you made the payment by bank transfer, you have no recourse.
Oh, really?
You become an unsecured creditor of the company, so you'll
Does anyone do that anymore? You mean EFT?
If you EFT, there's no. It's you paying your money.
Yes.
So there's no transaction to dispute.
All right, good on you, and I hope it was a great wedding day, John. Thanks.
Oh, it was fantastic. Thank you. Bye.
Thank you. Rolf is in Mornington. Good morning.
Rolf,
are you there? One last call out for Rolf. Okay, no, Rolf isn't going to work. So let's try for Vanessa, who I understand is in Blackburn. Hi, Vanessa.
Oh, hello. Thanks so much for taking my call.
Yep, go ahead.
Look, as a psychologist, with case notes that you make during the session with your client, which according to my organisation are records for yourself as a psychologist, a record of what happened in that session. And occasionally, well, not occasionally, it seems to be more and more, we get work cover, insurance companies just ad hoc saying, send us all the case notes. And they just insist upon it. Now, I understand about subpoenas and that sort of thing, and that's a different matter.
Yes.
But this is about clients. Sometimes the clients themselves ask, but quite often it's these insurance companies and also EAP, employee assistance programs as well. They just all seem to ask for it these days, and I really just don't want to give it out.
As a psychologist, are you covered by the Medical Records Act?
I don't know. That's a really good question. I've never even thought of that.
Because I understand like lawyers' notes are the lawyers, not the clients. Psychologist, I would have thought the same. The treatment notes, and clearly if there's a subpoena, then they get produced. But otherwise, Vanessa, I'll take it as a homework issue.
Oh, thank you, David.
Psychologists and your records. Yep.
Yeah, thank you.
Thank you.
Okay, well, we'll have a listen in next week because David, he's punctilious about this. He will be reporting back on what he finds out. Good luck. Thanks for that, Vanessa. Patrick's in Geelong. Good morning.
Oh, good morning, Virginia, and good morning, David.
Yep.
Look, I just want to give a bit of a shout-out in a positive way. I had to attend the Magistrates Court several weeks ago, and I was extremely nervous about the whole thing because it's not really my area of expertise or knowledge. And there's a group of people, predominantly women, who are called court support volunteers, and these people are just fantastic for people like myself who know nothing about the system. They could see I was anxious and nervous. They came and sat with me, asked me what my hearing was about, and then went through the basis of the process so I knew what would be happening, how I'd be questioned, my responses to the magistrate, how I should address him or her and all that sort of thing. It took, I suffer from anxiety, and I tell you what, it made such a change in me and helped me so much in my time at the court. And I just think they're wonderful people, and they're all volunteers.
Court Network, Patrick.
Yes,
yeah.
That's good.
Oh, they're amazing volunteers,
Yes.
and they're in every court, and they are to provide assistance for people like Patrick. Patrick, I would have told you to go to the court the week before and see what happened. But I understand.
Said that. I was very anxious about the whole thing, and it's sort of when you live with anxiety at times, it just puts you off doing what appears to be the better method of coping at times. But they were just magnificent, really patient people, and just went through it all, and I can't speak highly enough of them.
Is there any particular court you want to be kind to? Is it Geelong or somewhere else?
Yeah, Geelong, yes. Geelong Magistrates Court. They were
Okay.
fantastic.
Thank you very much, Patrick.
Well,
Thank you
it's
both.
very nice to hear a shout out. It doesn't often happen, so I'm delighted to share that with everyone this morning. Joe is in Point Cook. Hello, Joe.
Oh, hey guys, how you doing?
Good, thanks.
Very good. Hey, look, bought a house in a estate a few years back, which has got an owners corporation
Yes.
in it. And silly old me didn't quite read the rules in there. Anyway, fast forward to now. Decided to buy a boat. Got the boat, parked it on my driveway, and lo and behold, I've got a notice from the owners corporation saying thou shalt not have a boat.
Yes.
So really, my call's about.
Was that built into the rules when you bought it?
I believe so. I did have a look at the rules on the parking under the parking section.
Yes.
And it does say there as you can't park a trailer, can't park a boat, etc., on the road. Or
I take it that what you're doing is you can't. So you could have it in the garage if it fitted.
Yeah, correct. So I can have it in the garage or the back of the house, both
Yes.
of which is not possible because of the size of it's a 6-meter boat.
Yep.
It physically will not fit in either of the options given. So really, my choice is on the driveway, which is physically my property, or
Yes.
on the road.
Yes.
But the owners corporation says no to both. Now I did check with the council; they're okay with either, but the owners corporation says no.
Yep.
So
What's
just
the
want to see if
question?
there was any recourse.
Nope.
That's
you
it.
could apply. You could apply to. Well, you could apply.
You're so rough
you could s-
sometimes, David.
You could start the process for changing the owners corporation rules.
Sure.
I would have thought your prospects would be next to nil.
Yep.
If it's the subdivision that I'm thinking of, everybody is really, really keen to ensure that the aspects of the property are beautiful.
And it'd be a big, bulky thing to have sitting there for most of the months of the year, wouldn't it?
I think it's open to discussion.
Oh, no, I don't doubt that it's lovely and that you think it's lovely, but just on the facts, it's a big, bulky thing, correct?
It's a 6-metre boat.
It's a
that's
6-metre
right.
boat. I mean, and that's taken out on the water, 3 times a year?
I try every weekend, but sure.
Yeah.
And look, I've got good feedback from the neighbours, right? They did see the inspection going on, and they walked up to me and said, "Look, love the boat, enhances the appeal of the neighbourhood, so on and so forth."
Oh, really?
Oh, really?
All
Was that before or after you'd entertained them, Joe?
I'm yet to entertain them.
The,
so,
the, the bottle of
No, they want to
champagne
get
chopped in the
invited out on the
letterbox.
boat is what it
That
is.
really worked.
Yes.
Look, I think,
Joe, they're the rules
yeah.
in your
That's it.
in your community. It's an extra layer. It's if you live in a structure or a building or a subdivision with an owners corporation. There's an extra layer of rules.
sure.
All right, if you want to take that on, let us know how you go. Chris in Callista, good morning.
Good morning, Virginia and David. Look, love your show. It's been terrific, very interesting.
Excellent.
But what my question to David is, I have an issue on the boundary with a neighbour, and I obtained a building permit to construct a retaining wall. on the advice from council, I'm to retain my soil on my side of the boundary, and my neighbour is to retain his soil on his side of the boundary. So there's 2 retaining walls on one boundary.
Sorry.
Now, the issue has arisen that the council aren't enforcing the neighbour to construct the retaining wall on their advice, which he should. And
So I'm sorry, I'm at a loss, Chris. Who's got the higher wall, or does it change along the length of the boundary?
It does change along the length of the boundary, but I have the lower wall. My neighbour has the higher wall, or should have the higher wall. But council aren't getting involved. They're saying it's a neighbour dispute. And what I'm saying is it's actually bylaws. You're not enforcing the bylaws on the neighbour because he's constructing a new house.
So
It hasn't been signed off.
Sorry, Chris, is there a bylaw that says there is a retaining wall, or are you talking about the conditions on his building permit?
Well, it could be both. I don't know the conditions on his building permit because I'm not him. But all I know is what I've been told by the council. Even if it's 300 mil of fill, he has to construct an engineered retaining wall to retain his fill on his side, and I retain my soil on my side, which I'm considerably lower. But they're not getting involved.
If you're considerably lower, Chris, there's not much chance your soil's going to jump onto his property.
Well, no. Well, that's the point, because when I was getting some advice over the counter, they're very helpful, and the issue was not one shovelful of my soil is to land on his property, and not one shovelful of his soil is to land on my property. And I said they're very strict with that, and they do check.
Chris, I agree. It is a civil matter rather than, it's very unlikely to be a local law matter.
Yep.
If he's doing work and changing the level of his soil, he needs some permits. If he's got a permit that says, yes, you can move the soil, but you've got to put in a retaining wall, then that's a condition on the permit. I've had a couple of calls in the last year or so where the council is very concerned about how the building is constructed but didn't care about the retaining wall. And that was a retaining wall of about 600 mil. All right. It's a civil action. It's the magistrate's court, and it's to obtain an injunction to keep his soil off your soil.
Right, okay.
But I don't see Yarra Rangers as making that application on your behalf.
No, they're not interested in expensive legal litigation for no net gain to the council.
Yep, but it's net gain to you.
Well, correct. But I said I feel like I'm being unfairly treated when I'm being required, which I have done, and quite happily had my retaining wall engineered, signed off, all that. Right?
Chris, my difficulty is I'm not satisfied about what he's required to do. There's a difference between should and must.
Mm.
Yep.
Okay? Now, from a civil point of view, you can go to court about water damage. You can go to court about the soil encroachment. I've got one at the moment where we're having a fight over pretty much the same issue. The difference is 600 or 700 mil. It just happens to be in an inner suburb. And the question is my client's soil raised, or was the neighbour's soil lowered? And they're not whatever work was done 3 owners ago, not now.
All right.
So Chris, it's a civil matter.
Good on you. Thank you, David.
Thank you.
Appreciate it.
Good luck. Good luck. Julie is in research. Hello.
Oh, hello. Good morning, Virginia and David. Look, I've got a first world problem, but it's my problem. My husband and I flew on a special trip in July. On the next part of our trip, we were downgraded.
From where to where? What was this part?
From where to where?
From where to where? What was the leg that you were downgraded on?
Oh, we came back to Brisbane and then we went to Fiji.
So was it the Brisbane-Fiji leg?
Yes.
Okay, so Brisbane-Fiji, you had booked what?
We had booked business class.
Yep.
And we were downgraded to economy.
Yep.
When we spoke to the travel agent and she said, we'll sort it out when we get back. However, after 4 months, this major airline insisted we needed to keep our boarding pass. We were never once told to keep a boarding pass on that flight for any reason. So,
Julie, their computer records will show what seats were allocated to you.
Yes.
Yeah.
Well, David, they've now put us onto our travel agent who spent about 3 weeks emailing. My husband has spent the last 4 months emailing. Now they have put us onto the Fiji subsidiary of their airline to try and get clarification that we were actually on that flight.
Well, why would you not issue proceedings at VCAT?
Well, that's what I'm wondering
So
now.
I would simply go to VCAT. Now, if you look at the standard terms and conditions of the airline,
Yes.
you will find that they have the ability to downgrade you. All right?
Oh, yes,
That's built into the rules. Now,
Yeah.
but your question, to me, the issues are, did they overbook? What was the purpose of, why was the cause the downgrading? And then you'll have a fight about what was the appropriate compensation.
Yeah.
Right? That is always, because their argument would be that it's not between the rack price of, it's between what you paid and the highest. So if you were to buy, you buy a ticket on the 1st of January to fly on the 10th of December, you'll get a discount whether you fly in business class or economy. So there's an argument about what the differential ought to be.
Was it very expensive, Julie, buying that business class leg, that ticket?
Well, look, we flew to Japan. It was an anniversary, so my husband and I, decided for this trip. We flew to Japan business with the same airline. Then we had to come back because we were meeting family in Fiji.
No, I'm just asking, was it very expensive? Was it very expensive, that bit?
Look, I haven't got the exact figures of that. My husband has...
Can I have a suggestion for you, Julie? There's a website called australianfrequentflyer.com.au, and there you will find a series of discussions about exactly your point and what's appropriate compensation for downgrading.
Although hanging on to your boarding pass, it seems to me, is crucial. If ever anything, I always do, if anything's gone awry with the trip or you want to claim points or something, you have to have that boarding pass. It just makes life a lot easier.
Yes.
Look, Virginia, we've learnt now, but however, with that, we were never once told that was vital. We just
No, look, sure, I accept that. But I surely hope that trip didn't ruin your lovely holiday, Julie.
Oh, no, look, it
Excellent.
was amazing, but it's just now a matter of, it's quite a lot of money.
I get that. Don't waste too much of your life on it, though, would be my non-legal advice.
I
David's
would
legal
agree.
advice is
I would
different.
agree. Yep.
Oh, you agree?
I think it's the diminishing returns.
Yes, it is the law of diminishing returns.
Yes.
It's true. Months and months later, making emails and phone calls, move on with your life. David, always good to see you. Thanks so much.
Thanks, Virginia.
Excellent.